What's the P? Time to change the narrative. Black gay men talking real issues and they sharing it. Everything from dating, even talking hot topics. Mental health, sex, love, and everything around it. No longer will be silent. It's time for liberation. We need way more positive representation. Learn and connect. This is everything you need. Sharing their perspective. Now you knowing what's the P. Hey, what's the P? Let's go.
Black men to express their perspectives on issues, topics, and concerns of the world around us and how it actually impacts our community. I'm Curtis Rusella.
I'm Justin Lamar.
And this is What's the P. Today's episode will be what is masculinity. Mm-hmm. And the purpose that we did this show today was to discuss the traditional definition of masculinity and discuss if it just needs to be rebranded based off of some of the things that have been happening. Personal experiences and how people have been holding masculinity up to a certain standard in pop culture today. Because a lot of guys that we would deem masculine might not be
what we if we
visually.
Go back, visually they might look like they're masculine, but if we start to the description, I think they wouldn't be. I think it was a great conversation. Everybody had a different but similar perspective, and we're excited.
So we're going to be talking about this a little bit more and discussing. We'd like to hear your opinions on if masculinity should stay its traditional definition or if it should be rebranded in some sort of way, since more people are becoming comfortable with themselves and who they are as a gay man, a gay black man.
And what is your definition of masculinity?
Yeah, I really like to hear it. Yeah. So remember
to like, subscribe, and comment below on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And that's the P.
So, welcome to What's the P, and thank you for joining us for today's episode. I'm Rusella Curtis.
I'm Justin Lamar.
And this is What's the P. Today joining us, we have Donald and we have Desmond. Our conversation today will be masculinity. So, first question.
What is your definition of masculinity?
To me, when I think of masculinity, I definitely still think of it in the traditional sense. Just as far as, I guess would you say like a guy's guy, or, sports and the breadwinner and just the father figure and everything like that. Like everything that traditionally embodies a man.
I think for me, when I think of masculinity, I think rough, tough, head of household, the dominant one.
When I hear masculinity, I always, if you think of the traditional sense, you think of guys that are sagging, facial hair, deep voice, buff body. Strong.
You think about me.
Okay, girl.
Oh my God. Des, what do you think?
So for me, it's just general characteristics of what you attribute to be a man. So that could be anything from the body to the leadership, the head of household, all of those things. I think whatever you think a man is part of being masculine.
So do you believe the traditional definition of masculinity actually benefits or hinders the progress of the gay black?
I definitely say it hinders, because the connotation of masculinity always goes to like physical attributes. So that leaves a lot of people out. I can still be masculine, but not have a six pack or be the tallest thing or the best looking thing. I think we take the actual traditional aspect of it out of it and put it on a physical attribute. So I think it kind of hinders.
I completely agree with that, because it kind of makes, like, I don't know about other people, but it kind of makes you feel like if you're inadequate if you don't fit into that box of what people have drawn. Like, we're not all 6 foot and like 6'3" and bat. You know, so it makes you feel like you got to do something extra to like maybe grow my beard out or talk with a deep voice. I used to have a guy that I dated, and every time he would get on the phone or talk to somebody who wasn't like in his circle, he'd have this extra deep voice, and I used to make it back off. And so like I feel like, why are you talking like that? And he'd be like, we're talking like what?
Same
like,
face.
Yeah. And so I do think I agree with that.
I think for me, like I said before, I think it's both. It benefits those who are already 6 foot or masculine, who's macho, but it hinders everybody else because you might be a great guy who's sitting right next to you, but all you see is, oh, I want this masculine guy, when really the next guy right next to you could be a great guy to date. I think it works for, it depends on who you are.
Yeah, and it hinders a little because I think if you don't fit that, like,
it hinders you, but if I'm 6 foot, if I'm extra macho, if I'm
fit all of that,
if you fit all those criteria, that's helping you. It's not hindering you. It's giving you a.
I would have to disagree with all of you.
really,
Yes, just because when I think of masculinity, like when I go out, I think it's blurring the lines between what we consider to be masculinity versus what we find aesthetically pleasing within the black gay community. Just because I know plenty of guys that are heavyset big guys that when you look at them, you're like, this is a like this dude is very masculine. He's still got the full beard and how he carries himself, but doesn't have the American dream body. So I think it's really just, I feel like it's just how you carry yourself. Like when I look at this man, I'm like, this is still this is a man's man. Like he's just a big guy. He might not have the 6-pack and everything, but he's still that dude.
So like if he was, you wouldn't. I don't know. Like I think they like a big guy. What about the guys that can't control what their characteristics are? Like they're feminine. Like they have arched, their eyebrows are already arched, or they have they don't have a square jawline, they have softer features, or they're shaped more curvaceous versus square and,
but
like,
even with that, I mean, I fit, as far as body-wise and curve, I fit that standard of.
You fit what?
I'm a curvaceous. I'm a curvy man.
He curvy in the right place.
But I mean, in the sense of like a lot of guys approach me and they approach me on the sense of, because I'm I call it slim thick, but because I'm slim thick, and I'm light skinned, that I'm automatically a lot of times going to be a bottom. Because I
don't think people are gonna see.
A lot of times.
Well, people do.
A lot of guys do.
People
yes.
do say if you light skin, you bottom. Ain't nothing wrong with it. We ain't bottom shit.
I think
we need y'all.
But I think it's just like within the black community. I think masculinity, when you go aesthetics, like you guys were saying, then it's the tall, dark, and handsome. It's not even necessarily the light skin. It's the tall. It's the dark. It's the real it's the Idris Elba of the group.
Okay. Yeah.
The Jason Whites of the group. And that's what gets that masculinity. But if we're just talking about how you carry yourself, then I feel like it's a completely different thing.
Oh, okay.
Because you have people like, I don't know, DJ Khaled. Let's just go for that. He doesn't have a 6-pack or anything, but you definitely would still consider him a very masculine man.
Sure. Oh, okay.
So that's why I say it like that. Like it's the aesthetics versus how you carry it.
So you think it hinders it or hinders the group, the community?
No, I definitely still agree with you guys in the sense that it does hinder us, just because we are a very superficial community in the sense of like the conversations we've had before. If you're fat, no fats, no femmes, no this, no that, no other. But it's like, okay, this person might be those things, however. And you might be the opposite. You might be aesthetically that person, but you don't have any of the other truly important, characteristics like a personality. for example. You're just a shell.
Right. Yes.
Right. Okay. So, how can we or should we change?
It's a traditional definition.
Is the traditional masculinity a requirement when selecting a partner?
Is the traditional definition of masculinity a requirement when you were dating or you're selecting a partner? Has that been a requirement in the traditional sense?
There's been a preference for me.
But isn't that a requirement? Well, it might not be a requirement. Well, is it?
I mean, it's been a preference as far as like for me. That's something that I can't like. I don't want to be with a guy that's like an overly effeminate guy. But like, I still want to be with a man that even if he has some feminine traits, like you still carry yourself how I feel that a man would carry himself. So, for the most part, yes. Like, I don't expect you to be out there having babies or hitting on women or anything like that. But I mean, just in the sense of you command that respect that most heterosexual men command that respect, especially in the black community. Like, I expect you to have that, get that same thing, have that same feel.
With me, it doesn't, and I don't think it ever was a requirement for you to be masculine. I don't think that's anything. I typically like people with confidence, and the guys that I've dated, a lot of people will say, "Oh, Curtis, you tend to date guys that have feminine traits," and what I have found is that I love guys with confidence, and the guys that I have seen that had the most confidence were guys that were comfortable with themselves no matter what. They didn't try to be overly masculine. They just embraced who they were, and if it happened to, like, last guy I dated, he liked his hair straight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guy before that was who you met, DC, that was living in DC. He's just really pretty. He just took care of himself in a way that most people didn't do to that extreme. Like, he would pick out his clothes the night before, and then the next day it'd be a whole nother outfit. Like, he just was that. It really was like that. And I think that's and then, like, my best friend, he's that lives in California, but when we were in Phoenix, he was just very androgynous, and it was just very attractive to me to see. He had a beard, he had a really nice body, very sexy Latino guy, and he just had a way about himself that carried himself like nobody else just did. Like, it just was like people gravitated to him, and that was attractive to me. It was just really attractive to me. So I think because I wasn't really comfortable within my whole skin, it just,
you needed somebody to balance that. Somebody that's completely confident in them.
Maybe because I know I'm not the most masculine guy ever, you know, but I want to be there, like a person who is confident in who they are. And so I definitely know, like, I find it attractive when guys are meeting the traditional sense of masculinity, the traditional definition. I find it attractive, but it's just not something that keeps me, you know, because when we're thinking about the physical characteristics, I know that's not going to last anyways. And then I've dated some great looking guys that fit that, and they're just but you know, I really, it doesn't matter. It's never been a requirement. I don't think I'd ever be one of those guys that would say you need to be masculine on my profile, on my social media profile, that before I date you.
Right.
I don't want a guy that walks around in dresses, because I really don't want a female. I'm not attracted to females at all. But if you embrace your feminine qualities in your life, no matter what it is, I think it attracts me to you, because I just think they feel really confident about, they're not going to hide who they are at any point.
I think for me, no. Would you like it? Yes. But I don't think it's a requirement. I think when you're going to looking for a partner, or you're looking to date somebody, it should be, are they caring? How do they care about their family? How do they care about their friends? I think sometimes we get caught up in the aesthetics of people, and yes, you might attract that, but who are you beyond that? I think that should keep you and have a relationship. If you just want to date, okay, cool. That's what you want to display with. But somebody you want to build something with, I think it's probably total opposite. For me, I'd be like, okay, you cute, but you probably, no. Okay, next. That's for me.
It's kind of the same for me. I'm not a box checker, so I never look at somebody just for physical attraction or anything like that. I have to dig deeper. And I've been married 3 years. We've been together for 12 years, but we built a relationship on an intimate and an intellectual connection. So I wasn't drawn to him. I didn't really think that he was necessarily my type, but I said, let me try something different. At that time, I was 19, 20 years old. So it's
you probably like, what do I want?
Yeah, what do I want? Trying to figure myself out. And like you, I wasn't really confident in myself either. So I wasn't really particularly looking for anything, exactly to fit, like certain boxes and certain criteria. And so masculinity it just wasn't a thing that I was thinking about. But when I think of masculine, it's more so somebody's a provider, a connection, just showing your character. I don't think that, for me, it's ever been a physical thing.
I'm sorry. How could we or should we change the traditional definition of masculinity in our community?
I think we can change the perception, but change a person in general, like the definition, that's going to be hard because we go back to traditional. What is the standard? You can change it over time if you say, oh, this is what I think. And then some people are like, oh, they'll look at it different, but there's always going to be a definition of what masculinity is to everybody. And it's going to be different for each one of us. Each one of us had a different definition of what masculinity is. I think we can change the perception, not really the definition.
I kind of agree because the definition is really generic for effeminate and for masculine. It's like, it's whatever you attribute it to be. Like it's individually, based, because what he considers to be masculine is not the same thing as myself. So I don't think you can change the definition, but is that like you said, is that going to really change people's minds about what it is?
I think it can, because it just goes back to like racism. Like we know, like before, like in the 50s and stuff, they were like, oh, it's an okay thing to do. It's, we can spray you with hoses and beat you down and talk, it's acceptable.
But you never change the definition of what racism is. It's still the same, but you change people's minds about what racism actually is and why it's wrong.
Okay, yeah, okay.
That's kind of what changed is the perception and people.
Well, I think that's what we should do then, because I think too many people get caught up in what masculinity is, and it hurts us. So like, guys, even if you're not homosexual, a heterosexual guy, they feel like they tie masculinity into not only physical attributes, but just what it is to be a man is just to be the provider, instead of thinking about the characteristics outside of what a man should be. A man should be the leader in the household, or the spiritual leader, or the support system, the backbone of the family. He should be somebody you could lean on when you're having issues at work or having issues with your family. You should be able to talk to them. You should be able to find that support, and they should be a motivator. They should be somebody who encourages you. And
so what if you're not a father? Because a lot of those attributes you're saying, like, it's almost like a father figure. So if you don't have a kid,
I don't have a kid, and I don't want no kids.
But
I don't think about kids. And so I attribute that to what I want from my spouse and what I would want to give to my spouse. I do believe when it comes to relationships, I'm very traditional. Even traditional in the sense of like what we would say, oh, that's the heterosexual thing. I think of things traditionally, but I do understand, and what I do understand is that we are both men. And so we need to be able to balance those things and work and understand each other. And so you don't think of, I think a lot of guys think that being a man is being independent and being able to take care of yourself and pay your bills and I don't.
Yeah, but I mean, those are always just characteristics of being an adult. Period.
Well, I think that, but I think, but when you look at like social media profiles for gay men, they say you must have a car, you must have your house, you must maybe
but I mean,
maybe
because those are the requirements of making sure that you're an adult and you're handling your business.
But I do. But if you say that is what we're defining as masculinity, as characteristics or values, I think you should carry that, and I think you should take it to the next level. That masculinity is not understanding that you're independent, but that you understand and you work with interdependence. So like we're both independent, and we can take care of ourselves, but we come together and we make each other go to the next level. Because that's what interdependence is, and that's what masculinity is being able to take your spouse or your significant other to the next level with you.
So what about when you take spouse out of the equation?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to disagree with it altogether, because when you look at it, everything that we've all said, there's no true difference between when you're discussing masculinity versus femininity. Like, it's the exact same thing. It's just we put a gender role on top of on it, and that's it. Like, there's really, like, everything that we've all described, it's aesthetics and, and you should look this way and you should look this way, or you should carry yourself this way. Like, it's everything that still applies to a woman. There's really no difference. And I don't think we can change the perception of it.
Gay guys focused on when they say masculinity? What are they saying?
Because you still have to realize at the end of the day, though, as a gay man, your attraction is to a man. And that's what it is of men and within the black community, for those of us that had father figures and male figures, a lot of us that look for this were, late 70s, 80s, 90s kids. So, that was very nice. That was very nice. You did real good. We were all born at like the height of hyper masculinity within the black community. Because I mean, if you go back to like we always having the discussion the other day, the Cosbys and all those shows like that, like, it was okay at that time for a dad to tell his son, I love you, and this, that, and the other. But when you went into your mid to late 80s and your 90s, it was, you need to man up, you need to be hard, you need to be this, and to be able to survive in the world. And it went from a man, like you all said, providing and taking care, to a man your job is to only be the protector, it went from being a broad spectrum to being a very constricted box.
Right.
And I think it's not our job to necessarily change the perception, but it's our job to just reopen that box and say, okay, well, it's this as well as it encompasses these other things as well.
Okay, so that is a great segue into our next question. Why is hypermasculinity viewed as the standard? I think you answered most of that. I think it's viewed as standard because of, let's put it out there, like you said, TV. When you look at TV, this is what masculinity is. He's the dominant one, he's the provider, or
he has guns.
Right, you look at or even you look at wrestling. Wrestling, he's tough, he's rough, he lets you, his presence is known. I think it's always been the standard. So of course you're gonna attract it to something you see on TV. Oh.
I think it might be different. Y'all just made me think of something. Like if we were thinking online, I think maybe the definition of masculinity changes based off of what you're actually looking for. Right. So with guys, if we're looking for like sex, like on the apps, if you're just looking to hit it and quit it and just get done, and you're saying masculinity, maybe it's just going to be a physical attribute.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that attribute is a nice firm butt, nice chest, and a piece, and then but masculinity for somebody who's actually looking for a relationship will probably be more of the characteristics that I'm probably looking for like a guy who has the values and moral center and the spiritual center. And so maybe that's where I'm probably getting a little confused, and
and also we still have to remember some masculine men don't want another masculine man. They want the total opposite. So people might say one thing, but
and just touch on both of what both of y'all are saying, I also think it has to do with whatever you I don't want to say define, but whatever you kind of define your sexual position as. Because masculinity for someone who's maybe a more submissive bottom versus a guy who might be a top or a guy that's versatile, your definition of masculinity may be completely different.
But I disagree. I think sexual positions and if you're masculine or not, that has nothing, because there are a lot of masculine bottoms.
No,
there's a lot of feminine tops.
But what I'm saying is if you're a submissive bottom, your definition of masculinity will be very different than if I'm a top and I'm looking for a masculine bottom, or if I'm a versatile guy and I'm looking for someone that's masculine. Like if I'm a submissive bottom, I'm gonna want somebody that's dominant and aggressive. Versus if I'm a top, I don't want a dominant aggressive bottom. I might just want a bottom that carries himself what I would consider to be carrying himself as a man. Or if I'm versatile, it's either way.
Because your friend that lives in California that's married, they have very, in a traditional sense of marriage, where one can definitely be seen as he is
the man,
and
the other one is
definitely would be seen as
the woman.
Right.
To me, it is.
Because in reality, I'm not going to say any tea or anything, but you wouldn't know who your positions are, and if you just look at you guys and don't like with that.
No, with
his friendship,
but
you be like.
But believe it or not, there are a lot of people still in 2020 that still have these traditional values.
But that's okay.
And standards.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. But that's what they want. So we can't say.
I think for me it would be different.
Right,
I think
but you would be different. You would want more of a partner.
Because,
you don't want.
Well, I think
they
still have a partnership.
I think they still have a partnership, but you saying who's the man or woman? I think you wouldn't want that. You want.
I don't want anybody saying to me, period, that one's a man or
woman.
Right, because there ain't no woman. Right. So like.
But some people are like, they won't say woman, but I guess you say.
Well, people ask me that. I've been in a salon, and the women, and I don't want any of my clients feeling uncomfortable or anything, because I think it's a valid question for women to ask, and I think they really want to know. They go, well, who's the man and who's the woman? And I tell them, in your relationship, do you feel? I said we're both men, and we both can be masculine, we both can be feminine. And in your relationship, I said, just like with my mother and my father, my mom would traditionally be the bottom. She's the woman, so she's the bottom. But she's the dominant one in the family.
Yeah, correct.
Like she makes the big decisions. She takes care of the bills or something. If we want to go do something, she's gonna take care of it. She made good money. She cleaned house. Yesterday she was outside shoveling snow. Oh so like she's Mama, and when you see my mom is put together. Makeup, bam, clothes. She wearing high heels, click. So we shouldn't say man or woman. We should say who is the dominant and who is the passive. But I feel like those roles change too.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like in a relationship it goes back.
It's contingent upon the situation.
Yeah,
like somebody, I might be more financially minded, so I'm going to be more dominant when it comes to paying bills and all this. But you might be more dominant minded.
But does that take away your masculinity?
Well,
no, it does not.
Okay, because you're married. So who's at times who is what?
So for us, it's just a balance. I think what we focus so much on, like labels, top, bottom, verse, feminine, masculine, all of these labels, and we have no idea who we really are. Like for me and my husband, we're ourselves. Like we don't put any of those labels on each other. Whatever happens. This is who we are. And for us, I'm the cooker. I like to cook. That's something I focus on. He doesn't have to do it. He doesn't like to cook. I don't really want to wash dishes. So I cook, he washes the dishes.
Do people ask you who's the woman and who's the man in your, and have you been asked that?
But it's been like straight women, and I don't like that question.
I don't think
it's two men. I mean, there's no woman involved.
It's almost like disrespectful.
Yeah, because I get it all the time, and I because I think it's an okay question for people because they want to know, and there's nothing wrong. Nobody's trying to be offensive because in their head they're just really trying to figure out who's receiving and who's.
No, they basically want to know who's getting and who's.
That's what I'm saying.
I would rather you just ask me that question. I'm straight to the point.
But don't take away my masculinity because I decide to receive,
right?
Or if I'm a person.
So that shouldn't be. It shouldn't be attributed to being a woman just because you're
But I don't understand why is that a question that you need to even ask. Why is that your business?
Next time you should be like, Google it.
Because there are women, there's heterosexual women that put on strap-ons.
If you want to peg your husband,
there's
then peg your husband.
heterosexual women that put on strap-ons and give it to their.
That's
so that doesn't take away.
I mean, the male G-spot is in the. So, but that doesn't take away from your husband being a husband.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why does that?
And that's your business.
Yeah, but I think also within that question, it kind of blurs the lines because heterosexual people, especially within the black community, a lot of them are still so very against the gay. I don't even call it a lifestyle. It's just being gay, but you're still so inquisitive about it.
Yeah.
But it's
it's popular.
Yeah, but it's like we're not poodles and pocketbooks and stuff.
We're not science.
We're
We're not science.
Yeah, we're trying to figure stuff out too.
You know.
But I think it's but I just want them to feel comfortable in asking, because I think asking that question allows them to feel to relate to be able to be more relaxed and relating. They don't see differences, and so I like to try when people ask that question, who's the man and who's the woman, I say, well, who's the man and the woman in your relationship? You know, because some men don't want to take out the trash. Some men want to cook. Some men.
I'm trash.
Yeah,
I don't like to take out the trash. I don't think that's a masculine feminine thing. I just don't really like to take out the trash.
So, which is going to bring us into our next question. If you were to define masculinity in terms of personality traits, what qualities or characteristics would that actually be?
I would have to say dominant. He is dominant, I think. Come back to me. I really feel right.
We know for sure dominant.
Right.
I think for me is independence. It's leadership. It's just general. I mean, it's just characteristics of being, just being a man. I don't have like a clear definition of what I think masculinity is, because like he said earlier, it's like it's like a fine line. Masculinity, femininity is almost like the same. You just put, a gender to it. It's really some of the same attributes that you will find.
I've never thought about it in that sense, but it does make sense like that, but I would still.
You still would. I'm low.
I mean, I would still think, like in a traditional sense, I would still put on like you're the support of the family. You're the backbone. You're the leader. You're the coach.
But that's
you
not
just said
I
that
know.
your mama does.
I know.
And nowadays, women,
but I do
women
think
make
if since we are men, I think it is. I know it's like.
But I get what you're saying. You still want to believe that it's this way, even though things have evolved over time.
Yeah, right.
I kind of believe that too.
But what keeps you with like tradition? Like, what is?
It's in you. I think it's just in you.
I mean, it's something that's, you have to realize, it's even today, for the last, as long as TV's been around, traditional roles have, for the most part, even in today's TV, you still kind of see the traditional roles that father is supposed to be the head of the household, even though it's very different in the black community than it is in other communities. Like, in black communities, the man might be there, but the woman at the end of the day is the end all be all.
She's the boss.
Yeah, like he brings home the money, she applies it to everything. She makes it, go ask your mama, the whole 9 yards. Like that's and that's what it is. Like even when I talk to the black women that I work with, these are very, very strong, independent women that, yes, they have husbands and they've been together for years. However, they still make the decisions, and their husbands would rather pass it by them and make sure it's okay with them before they just come out and make a decision. Versus 40 years ago, okay, well, no, everything would be maybe go ask your dad, and then if the dad said we're doing this, then the wife would say okay, period. Like there was no discussion. But now it's almost equal. It's a lot more equal than it was before.
Yeah. I still go back onto what the tradition.
I don't know. If you go back to the tradition, then I'm
he's an older generation.
Because I do all the finances, I do all the cooking, I do all this. I mean, but it's just
the traditional role.
I just think I just go back to relating to when I look at, because I'm still looking for my significant other, and sometimes I fall back onto these apps because I don't go out and I don't have opportunities to meet a lot of people like other people do. And it just, I don't know personally what to do when I see that on the app that says masculine. Like it kind of throws you off. Like and when I look at that, I think that the person is just really focused on your physical characteristics as well as you being able to provide, because right after that it says you need a house, you need your own car, you need to make this, you need to have this degree. And
but I think you're on the app. That's all like you're on the app, and I think it's just they're trying to see who they match up real quick. They're not like, oh, it's not an eHarmony. It's probably it's brighter.
It depends on who the profile belongs to. I feel like, because some people genuinely get on these apps to meet somebody. However, some people do get on these apps just to meet for the quick hookup.
Right.
So I mean, for the people that may have all these lists of things, you might be looking for that additional person, not a long term, not just a right now. So it's like, okay, I want you to be a masculine man in the traditional sense. Most of us think of it in the traditional sense, but I also want you to be an independent person. So I would like you to have a house and a car and this, because one, we live in a metro city. So a lot of people nowadays.
How can you function without it?
This is true, but I mean, but you have to have. I think that you have to sometimes put these requirements out front, because it's like, okay, well, I don't want to waste my time when we're texting and all this for a long period of time, and then come to find out you don't have a car, or you live with your mama. Well, no, I want you to know right off top that I don't have time, because I'm not going to stay at your mama's house.
But that doesn't make you a man, and it doesn't define masculinity. Because
it made for that person, though.
But
what makes your situation more complicated?
I would say maybe the guy is looking to buy a house and he's saving up $20,000, and that's why he's living.
But then you actually have a conversation. You don't just leave it at looking at the profile.
That's what I said. It's a profile. They're doing a quick matchup and they're trying to get whatever they're trying to get.
There's only so much you can put.
Right, because those people.
If you have those really lengthy ones, then
I'm not reading all
that. No, but unless you're bored at home, like, oh, let me just scroll. I just feel like.
But y'all have to agree that they are equating masculinity to physical characteristics and finances. That I think that's what people are doing, and I think that comes from the heterosexual community, and we need to break that stigma and show that you, as a masculine man, and even if you're feminine, but as a masculine man, what you should be is a person who is your leader, who is the support system, who is an encourager, who is a motivator, who is maybe even the coach in the house, and you're wanting that and being able to receive it back. And that's what, because you owning your own ego and your pride is what can also make you a man.
Okay.
And I think sometimes we don't know how to do that, and we run from those things. And I believe if you can't own that stuff, then you aren't a man and you aren't masculine. You're a boy.
Okay, so that's a good point. So what can a person do to change the definition of masculinity? I mean, you kind of said it in a nutshell. It's how people perceive it. I mean, what do you think?
I just think leave it as it is. I don't really think changing it or even trying to get people to kind of reframe it in their minds, or there's even a point to it, to be honest. Like, I think you still have to be able to characterize it on your own terms.
Well, okay, so like if you said that, they're getting ready to do The Bachelor, right? And The Bachelor this upcoming season is supposed to be a gay guy. And
he gay.
Did y'all?
He gay.
He is very gay. Nothing wrong with it.
He is
effeminate.
He is effeminate. Yes. He would not be the characteristic of a masculine man.
Right. And so, why? I think that is a problem. I think it is a problem because when we put on The Bachelor is a show that is watched by everybody across the world, and so that's gonna fit into the stereotype of what people believe gay men are, and I honestly believe though the guys that are that effeminate, because he is wearing makeup, are the minority of the community. Because they don't know, because you don't see all the gays that you wouldn't clock. that nobody knows about them because nobody clocks them.
But
so there's a lot of gay men. It's like when my homegirl went to DC with us and she went out to the club and she was like, boy, all these are dudes that she was really doing that. She was like, these are dudes that I would have been trying to hit on. Like she didn't even realize it.
I think that goes back to TV. This is what they want the TV to produce.
Yes, so that's what I'm
why
saying.
do they have to look like that? Why don't it have to be unclockable?
No, why can't he just be normal? Well, I don't want to say that because that sounds bad. But why can't he?
We are normal.
No, but why can't he just be the average everyday guy?
Because that makes great TV.
That is nothing. No,
it goes back to a conversation we had that's a form of homophobia.
It is
because you're saying that because this man is an overly effeminate man, that he is a negative connotation.
No, I didn't say negative.
No, but that's how it's coming across. Is because this man fits into the stereotype of what black gays are. That well, why can't he be normal or why can't he be this? But I mean,
why can't he just be the everyday gay?
But why? But what makes him not?
But Curtis,
do we think he's the everyday gay? Do you think does the everyday gay wear makeup and eyeshadow and walk around in person?
A lot do.
There's 4 people at this table. Do any of y'all wear eyeshadow and makeup?
No.
Do y'all walk around in heels?
But that doesn't mean that
it's not wrong.
That doesn't mean that we're the standard for gay men.
We're
that
not
just
the
means
standard,
that,
but we're just ourselves.
But in the white gay community,
he's himself.
And you don't know where he's from either.
I don't, but
so you. But think about the show, though.
It's for entertainment. We can't take it too seriously.
Well, and on top of this, the men that are gonna be on the other end of his roses or whatever.
I was being messy. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing: the men that are gonna be on the other end of this are mostly gonna be more masculine men.
Right?
No, I think it's gonna be a variety. I think it's gonna be a little this,
but
a
you
little
realize
that.
most of overly effeminate men aren't going to want to be with another overly effeminate man. So 9 times out of 10, the people that he's going to be picking are going to be out of men that we would perceive as masculine men.
Right. And do you think those guys would want to be with a guy that's feminine?
I know plenty of masculine men that
because online we were just talking about that online.
But we're talking about a white gay. We're talking about a white gay. White gays.
We're completely different community.
Act like you got a big beard.
No, we're a completely different community. So the standards that we have are very different standards of what they have.
Correct.
Very, very different.
Yeah.
I just think it's okay for them to be, even for the heterosexuals, to be effeminate and we're talking about Princeton knows best.
I just think he just fits the stereotype of what we as a community are just trying to show the diversity. And I think they are the guys that go that far into being gay aren't who everybody is, and that's why guys don't want to come out because they don't want to be associated with them.
I think in the black community, it's because of the negative narrative that comes along with being gay and being shunned and the you're going to hell and this and that.
Because people are associating me being gay with wearing makeup and carrying a purse and taking it up the butt and walking around saying, "Hey,
I mean, that's a part
no,
of
that's what they're saying. That's the truth. It's that they're saying and walking around saying, "Hey, girl," and giving everybody that.
But
you do say, "Hey, girl,"
but
quite often.
I do.
That is your perspective. You should try to change that definition. Like, no, don't call me girl. I'm a man. You change that. No, I don't take it. I might do, but I still give it. You control that.
Each person's individual journey throughout it. Like, and that's what it is at the end of the day. Like, if you allow heterosexual women to treat you like a purse, like an accessory, then it's your fault. Or if you allow heterosexual men to put you in a box or to shun you or whatever, then it's your fault. Like, it is each of our individual job to say, you know what, this is not who I am. I refuse to allow you to put me into this box of what being a man is, or to what being a successful black man is, because most of us make more than our heterosexual counterparts. So,
well, that's a fact. The study shows.
Yeah.
Well, if they know that you're gay. It is true.
Yeah.
If they know that
because
you're
that's
gay.
the only way to do the study.
Yeah, that's the only way. Because there's a lot of straight, and we'll be talking about this on one of the episodes of gender roles and stereotypes and job professions. Gay men that are out in their jobs tend to make more money than straight heterosexual men, and so if not the same amount. which would, so that is factual. But the guys that are closeted that are gay and DL, we don't know what they're making.
I think we have more drive than our heterosexual parts as well.
I think we are just more commanding because
more
like
to prove.
and
Yeah, and that's what it is. We have more to prove than like women. Women have more to prove than heterosexual men. Gay men have more to prove, especially gay black men have more to prove than our heterosexual counterparts.
But I think, unlike women, because women, you could say that, but women don't ask for the raise. Women don't say that's why they don't make. They make, what is it, 80 cents on the dollar?
I don't believe that's
and
not.
no, it
believe
is
that's
true.
true.
Mika Brzezinski and them do
They
a show.
ask.
on
No. That's what I'm saying. They ask, and I know plenty of women that demand it. I just believe that. I mean, you're looked at as less than.
Right.
Women are looked at as less than. Gay men are looked at as less than, especially gay black men, because we are secondary to our white counterparts. Like,
You got
and
two
it's
targets on that.
yeah, you just SOL, bro. That's it.
So is there anything else that we can do to change the definition of masculinity as
No.
far individually? There's
You,
nothing?
the
We
best
just
you
accept
can do.
it?
No, I think you individually can change a person because you interact with people every day. I think you can do that.
Yeah.
But as far as a definition, no.
Don't even care about it.
So what happens when we're talking about, okay, so this is bothering me. I'm just really quick. What happens when you see Little Nas, like, right? Because to me, it's a big conundrum because before he came out, I don't think he was wearing sequins. No, I don't think he was. I think he was just looks like a regular traditional rapper.
Right.
And all of a sudden he decided to come out and he's over the top. He's damn near wearing
he wasn't
assless
regular.
chaps.
No,
But no, he still had a cowboy hat.
But Lil Nas
It's
wasn't in the closet prior to him being famous.
But he
you
definitely
Instagram
wasn't wearing what he's
pictures.
wearing now.
But if you don't have those means to wear what you wore now, it's two different things as well.
Every time we go to a award show, he's wearing something outlandish. And he's looking like
Because he has a new stylist.
He's looking like
Yeah.
And those are the people who telling him that.
the black gay
Liberace.
But you know what?
and
But you know what? This is my
I'm
thing though.
saying
I
it.
still would not label him as being effeminate
No, I
because
would
he
either.
still
I'm
carries
not
himself
saying it's
masculine.
effeminate.
Then what are you
But
talking
I'm-
about? Okay, so what you trying
I'm
to say?
saying that when people who are not gay see that, they automatically associate that with femininity and all kinds of things that are not deemed masculine, and it just
By fashion choice?
yes, it's like Billy
so
Porter.
superficial.
But
though.
well,
It is
and you know what?
superficial,
But that's something
I
cannot
think he
change.
looks
You
sharp.
can't change
I think Billy
perception.
Porter's outfits look sharp, but I think it hurts our community when we go to that extreme. Why is he going to that
But
extreme?
why is that an
How-
extreme?
Yeah.
You're just
You don't
trying
make
to
sequence out of there.
But
It's extreme.
it sounds like you have a form of homophobia and you are trying to force these gay people
No.
to
You
live
don't
in a
think
box.
sequins? You don't think sequins are extreme?
So why is it okay for a woman to wear sequins but not a man to wear
I'm not
sequins?
saying it's not.
material.
I'm just saying
It's
clothes.
homophobic.
Okay,
It's
so
homophobic is what
next
it is.
time we go out,
It's
I
clothes.
want to see y'all.
But what about
But it's-
like
I'm not
Jay
wearing sequins
Smith?
because I don't want to wear sequins.
Why?
But hell, what's his face? Is it Gucci
Wearing
Man?
those skirts and stuff.
Gucci Man had a whole goddamn
Gucci Man.
press,
Yeah.
silk press. They didn't call him gay.
And
I
He
think
was looking like somebody mom.
Young Jock.
They had
Young
me-
Jock, that's who it
they
was,
had-
Young
they had
Jock.
me- They had
Yeah.
memes all over the place about his ass.
Yeah, but they didn't question his masculinity.
They did. They did.
Is that what people were saying?
I just
No, the
wonder
me-
why-
the-
all the memes I saw was
I
just
see
them
that.
saying
I
he
see
looked like
that.
somebody's
I see
mama.
that. Exactly.
But that's not questioning somebody's
It's
masculinity.
Looking like somebody's mama.
That's questioning
No,
his hair.
that's just a hair
choice.
choice.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
I will let y'all have that one today.
But this is my thing. I'll give you a prime
Because-
example. If Terry Crews came out as gay, he's not. Let me put this on
No.
record. Terry Crews is
I don't-
not a
I don't
homosexual
think-
man.
He's not a homosexual.
But if he did decide to come out as a homosexual man, or Dwayne The Rock Johnson or anybody else, no one would say, oh, this person is less masculine. Or the football players that have come out.
Right.
No one is saying they're
Yeah.
less masculine, and some of them been taking pipe for years.
I'm sorry. Terry Crews does act a little.
Oh,
But
He does.
no, I think he's charismatic. I don't
he's a
think
very charismatic
I don't
person.
think
just like Will Smith, just like Martin
And
Lawrence.
Will Smith is questionable.
Oh,
Yeah,
and this is the end of what's the
But now you're a good segue.
I'm just stereotyping people.
No,
You're doing just as bad as
no, I'm
our
saying
heterosexual counterparts
should we
do.
take? But I'm saying should we take away, redefine what that is?
No,
so
just
it'll
take
be
the power away from the word altogether.
Yes.
Take the power.
It's stop trying to put
Giving it
people
too
in a
much
box that
attention.
you have to be this way.
Oh, I don't do it.
You just did.
So I'm just acknowledging what people are saying.
But you were those people, Curtis.
No,
You are one of them.
I don't do that to people.
You just said their outfits were too outlandish for
I
them
still
to be
press
gay.
my boyfriend's hair. I gave him character treatments. I don't care. I'm just saying this is what the community says and what people say in the black community about people who do that. And I think we need to do something more to allow people to understand that just because you do that doesn't take away your masculinity.
Look, y'all should like and subscribe and tell us if y'all feel like Curtis is being a tad bit homophobic. I feel like
I think we all might have a little bit.
I think we all do.
Yours clearly opinion.
Yes. I feel like we all have our comfort zones.
But all
and
the
what
guys,
makes us a little bit uncomfortable.
all the guys that I've been with, well, not all of them, but the majority of them,
All right.
they're feminine and I don't care.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Dan.